Hello, it's been a long time since I've recorded anything or done anything productive. I've been doing Art Fight because it's July by the time I'm recording this. It's probably been like over a month since I've uploaded to YouTube. I'm going to be talking about On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden. It's a webcomic originally, but you can buy it in print. My sister sent it to me like over a month ago, and I got the chance to read it, and yeah. Let's talk about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the story. Try my best not to give too many spoilers, but there will be spoilers because I'm really bad at keeping secrets. And then give my thoughts and feelings. Let's go. Sorry if I don't sound super enthused. It's like 11 when I'm recording this, and I really don't want to wake up anybody. Alright, let's get into it. On a Sunbeam follows Mia, who is a recent high school graduate. She graduated from like a private boarding school in space. For a couple different reasons, she's pursuing a career right out of high school instead of going to like space college. She ends up joining a crew of repair specialists who handle different construction sites in space. Anything from like an office to a temple of a lost religion. When we're not in the present, we do get flashbacks to her time at the boarding school and the different relationships that she had with people and teenage adventures that she went on. Aside from Mia, their crew consists of Alma and Charlotte, who are like the captain and the first mate. They're a married couple. Char, who is technically the captain, is much more reserved, and Alma is outgoing and outspoken, so Alma takes on team management and communication. There's also Jules, who is actually Alma's niece. She's about the same age as Mia, and aside from working as part of the crew, kind of grew up in the environment that Mia finds herself in. The last member of the crew is Elliot. They're a technician for the ship, and they do a lot of like background stuff, like computer, whatever, sci-fi science stuff that they need in order to keep the buildings from like falling out of the sky. The primary storyline of the present is Mia working with the crew of the Atkiss and getting to know them, as well as finding her place in the team. We learn pretty early on that she has a lot of determination when she's passionate about things, but also is, I would say, prone to like self-fulfilled destinies of like messing things up, and she has a lot of reservations about that. We see that as a factor of her life, both in the present and in the past. She tends to beat herself up a lot for things and situations that may or may not be that bad. Aside from learning her position with the crew, Mia's main story component is trying to find Grace. To talk about Grace, I am going to transfer over and talk about the past storyline. So that's anything that takes place during Mia's schooling. Mia and Grace are introduced to one another at the principal's office, with both receiving punishments for different like crimes, I guess, like school crimes.
Yes, but there's never any crime in Moomin Valley.
Unless we commit some, I guess.
What?
With Grace pretty apparently being sort of a fish out of water, we don't learn a lot about her for a good portion of the book, and it would be a pretty big spoiler to kind of give away what her mystery is. But I will say we watch both Mia and Grace develop in their schooling, with Mia leaning more towards sports, specifically a sport called Lux, which is like bumper cars meets laser tag. It kind of reminds me of the fish motorcycles from Disney's Atlantis movie, and Grace being much more studious. It's clear that she is very well read and bookish. She doesn't have street smarts, but she has book smarts. Whereas Mia, I wouldn't say is the opposite, but is much more your common man. They do have other interactions with other people aside from each other, but the primary story of the boarding school moments are to build up Mia and Grace as characters and their moments together. Just to flash back to the present and mention like two more things, I guess. One is a character that I excluded when talking about the crew because of a situation that Mia was involved in, which led to Char getting benched for a while. Jo takes over as the captain, but she also serves as a momentary antagonist, particularly in regards to Elliot. Elliot is a non-binary character using they/them pronouns, and also a non-verbal character. Jo doesn't like anything about Elliot, anything about them at all, honestly. The rest of the crew rallies behind Elliot, specifically Jules, who is equally outspoken and confrontational to Jo. It might be trigger warning worthy. I'm not really sure. It's up to your personal preference. Joe's real purpose, in my opinion, is to redirect the crew and the plot back to the primary objective, that being Mia finding Grace. And that's honestly about as much as I want to give away in the story itself and what happens in the story. It's free to read online, and I really think it's worth checking it out. To talk briefly about the art of the book, I really dig it. I think it looks great. There's a heavy use of contrast throughout the book. Tillie Walden uses colors pretty sparingly. I would say only using 1 to 3 colors per page. This really helps emphasize the illustration itself, and I think creates a nice, clean image throughout the story's entirety. There's also a lot of sharp angles, both with the colors and the illustrations themselves. I think it looks really good online, and I'm sure it probably looks good in print. The style of the book is pretty simple, and I don't mean that in like it's simple. I feel like people might take that as a dig. I don't mean it as a dig. Minimally might be the best word for it. The characters themselves read really well. There isn't an abundance of heavy line work or anything like that. It all looks very clean, and a lot of the backgrounds are honestly really, really nice. I think that could also transfer to the way that space is illustrated. I love the dark, rich black with just dottings of stars. I think it gives it a really cool look, and it visually helps break up the page without being overly distracting at all. It also reminds me a little bit of Jack Kirby's art, like the comic artist Jack Kirby, specifically in some of the ways that he drew tech, where it's like super almost overly detailed. Like it looks really cool in a specifically sci-fi way. And then additionally, in the way that space is illustrated, it's pretty reminiscent of the Kirby Crackle, which is that like dotted structure that Jack Kirby would use to represent like space or like energy in his illustrations. I remember texting my sister that this reminded me of futurism. I don't remember why I said that off the top of my head. I don't know, because I feel like my art degree has faded away. I don't know. At some point I thought that. One negative that I'd like to mention but wasn't really sure where to place in the video is the typography of the book. It looks like it's handwritten, and I can't really tell if it's a font that resembles handwriting or if it's truly handwritten, but it is at moments kind of difficult to read. That could just be my bad eyesight, because I do have pretty bad eyesight, but yeah, it's not often, but it's often enough that I found it noticeable. The last thing that I want to compare this to, and I know it's probably really annoying for me to compare stuff to other art, but whatever, is Revolutionary Girl Utena, which is like a anime that I feel like everyone has seen and everyone references. It reminds me of Revolutionary Girl Utena, especially some of the backgrounds of the boarding school and the way that the buildings are structured. And the relationship of Mia and Grace reminds me of Anthe and Utena. I feel like that's almost purely aesthetic in like why I was anticipating it to be that way, but also like both Anthe and Grace are like mysterious characters. And then, yeah, the protagonists are protagonists. I don't know. Yeah. That's it. I just felt like I should mention that I saw a similarity, and that like changed my opinion of what to anticipate as the story progressed. This video is not scripted, and I feel like you can tell, but yeah. Hi, future me again. Sorry, keep cutting in. I do want to say that I don't know for sure if Utena was like an inspiration or anything, and any similarities or like inspiration, if there is any at all. This is a very different story, and each story is functionally unique, and there are things in one and not the other, and vice versa. So yeah, I just want to clarify that. Or maybe I just sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, which is also completely fair. And then I guess one other thing to mention in regards to the book before I give like my closing thoughts or whatever is to talk a little bit about gender in the book, specifically the lack of male characters with any significance at all to the story or the weight of the story. This is really like a female heavy book, or a woman heavy book, with most of the female characters dating other women or being married to other women. There's really the only character with any significance that isn't a woman is Elliot, who themselves is a non-binary character. It reminds me of Steven Universe, which I know I gotta stop bringing up other things, but level with me here. It reminds me of Steven Universe in the way that they portrayed gender kind of flipped.
Take Pink back to the tower.
She prefers to be called
Stephen.
Women are the default in a gender neutral way. I feel like that's hard to explain if you haven't seen Steven Universe, but it's sort of like she, her takes up the space that he, him often does as a default in their world.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
It's worth noting if you're looking for a book with a predominantly female cast. I don't know, I feel like that was a weird tangent, but I wanted to mention it. I guess that's all I have to chit chat about off the top of my head. I really enjoyed this book. I feel like I'll definitely go back and look at it again in the future, or like text it to people like my sister did to me with very little context and just say, you should read this. Those are some of my favorite texts. But yeah, I really think it's worth checking out if you have extra time to kill, or if you're looking for a webcomic, or if you're looking for a physical comic. I'll link to the comic itself, and then anywhere that you can buy it, or not anywhere, but somewhere that you can buy it. Just by the by, if I list bookshop.org, that is probably an affiliate link. So if you buy it from there, that would help me out, but you don't do it from there if you can find it somewhere else and you prefer somewhere else. But I feel like I should mention that now because I feel kind of weird doing that and not mentioning it. That feels like it's not good. But yeah, thanks for bearing with me. If you made it this far, hopefully I'll have a new video sometime. The summers are really hard for me to upload stuff, so I appreciate your patience as I deal with family visiting and work and just melting into my floor because I hate I hate hot weather. Hate's a strong word, but I'm using it. I'm a cold weather person. I live in New England. I don't want hot weather. I don't like it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks, YouTube, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Alright, bye.